TeamsTuesday. So my name is Peter Ward. I'm the host from Teams from my New York apartment. So I'll just give it a few minutes to for a few more people to join. But we have a great international speaker, Tracy van der Schyff from South Africa. So welcome, Tracy.
Thank you, Peter. It's so nice to hang out with you guys again.
Yes, indeed.
Great.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So where in South Africa are you located?
I'm from Pretoria, which is just before Johannesburg, about a half an hour in non-peak traffic, of course.
Very cool. So how long have you been using the Microsoft technology or the SharePoint, Teams, Office 365? Not so much the Office. You obviously started off on-prem. What year did you? What version would you say you started?
No. Well, I kind of think most of us started with SharePoint. I don't know if that kind of was the entry point to the crazy portal was SharePoint. And I reckon somewhere between the 2003 and 2007 versions, but it wouldn't have been those years because, as you know, a lot of companies adopted later. But it's been about, where are we now? Yeah, it's been about 12, 13 years that I came across and started on the SharePoint side. And then I definitely jumped ship immediately when Office 365 was launched. I got on board, and then of course when Teams was launched as well, I was on board as well.
So what's your favorite feature of Office 365?
Oh, that's tricky.
Too many, is it?
No, there's way too many. I mean, as you know, Peter, I wrote a blog every single day for 2 years, like about the features in Office 365. So there's like, I don't know, 365 times 2 you can pick from. I don't know. I don't think, I cannot, there's no way that I can pick a specific feature. Every single thing just adds so much value. And for me, it's a mutualistic symbiosis or how everything works together. So I can't pick one thing. It's like you can't have a favorite child, people. That's just not fair.
Well, I understand. Okay, I suppose that's true. All right, so before we start off, you just want to, are you in every guest presenter? I always ask them, just tell us a piece of information about you that not many people generally know about.
It's kind of tricky because I of course don't personally know the audience or who is there, because maybe these things the community knows about me. But I think there's kind of two things that stands out. Is firstly, I have 101 tattoos. Still scares my mother. And then I think I love bikes more than I like people because I'm a motorbike chick. So that kind of like puts it out there. And I don't mean it in a bad way, because I really love motorcycles, which means I can still love people quite a lot.
Okay, so what kind of bike do you have?
Oh, I've got a couple. You don't have just one bike. What is wrong with you people?
Right.
But I recently bought a new one. I got a 790R Adventure KTM, and then my favorite baby is a KTM 1290 Super Duke. That's the one that I kind of ride every day. And then I just sold my Ducati Monster, which was sad for me. And then I've still got a scooter as well for fun. So.
All right, cool. All right, so let's talk about bikes. Let's just talk about your topic. So Microsoft Teams, Microsoft, the ultimate work from home toolkit, which is quite relevant in today's times. So I will go on mute and I will let you know, make you the star of the presentation.
I think I'll definitely make Office 365 or Microsoft 365 the star. I think we're all just role players in this, and to bring the good news. So I always have the session interview there as well. I'm not quite sure the forum, but they will share the slides afterwards. I have given them to you as well, just so that you know exactly what the abstract was. But the focus for today, obviously, is Office 365. That's just a bit about me. It's just it's all naughty badges. But anyway. So these are the things that I do want to talk about today. And as I mentioned before, I don't have a favorite child. So Teams is definitely also not just the favorite child for me, because there's this unbelievable co-innovation and mutualistic symbiosis between the different apps and services. And a lot of people don't get how great these apps are, because they kind of look at the apps in a silo environment. They kind of think Microsoft Teams should do everything, or Yammer should do everything, or why is SharePoint not doing everything? But once they understand the bigger picture and they understand how the apps work together, then it definitely opens their eyes to what the strong and the weaker points are of the apps and services and how they actually support and supplement each other. So quite first up, I do want to talk about co-innovation. I am going to just quickly talk about some of the other apps and services and how these plug into SharePoint and Teams. I'm going to talk about the Office 365 apps. I'm going to be spending some time on Microsoft Teams. I'm going to be painful about some governance and setting things. And then the last slide is just some work from home tips and tricks that I started gathering just to help people. I do have a lot of slides, so I'm going to scan through a lot of these things as well. But like I said, you can get your hands on these slides afterwards. So the first thing up for me, obviously, is to talk about co-innovation. And the co-innovation, of course, that's that toolbox that kind of brings everything. And if I think of Office 365, the thing that comes to mind for most people, of course, is they still have their Outlook, is their ProPlus. They might have Microsoft 365, so there's Windows in the mix as well, and the mobility and security things. But of course, SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams is the main role players there. I mean, that's the first things we kind of get engaged with. But I don't want you to forget about the other things that can get added to this as well, or should be added in this as well. Now, of course, ProPlus. I like hesitated a bit, but when Peter asked me what my favorite thing was, I nearly went ProPlus. Okay, I was very close, but I didn't want to pick a child. But ProPlus is incredible. I'm actually doing a webinar on it next week as well, just to bring some focus to ProPlus and the features, because it's just unbelievable, the features that's been released. And then, of course, if I just look at OneNote, is not my best friend. Okay, I just have it on my phone, I have it on all my machines. I just love OneNote. Planner, Yammer as well. I mean, this is the year of Yammer, so Yammer as well, brilliant tool. Stream, Forms, Sway, and that's just a couple of those that I don't want you to forget about when you look at these specific apps and services that kind of forms the foundation of what you do every day. And very, very importantly, the Power Platform. So Power Automate, Power BI, and the Power Apps, bringing that in there as well. So let's take a look, like a look back. And I know that this is a very busy slide, but I've focused on digital literacy skills for the last couple of years. And a lot of my webinars and training and talks and everything and blogs has been based on this. And I want you to understand that for people to be aware of what it is that they need and how to use apps, you have to link it to a need that they have. And we all have a need for digital literacy skills. So if you look at the digital literacy skills, and this is just a methodology that I've adopted, but all of those skills are supported by and developed through the different apps and services in Office and Microsoft 365 and Azure, of course, because that's the purpose of them. The purpose is not just to use the app. The purpose is to fulfill a skill or a need that we have to do specific things. So please think about the digital literacy skills that these apps and services plug into, because that's definitely where a lot of our benefit comes from. So the first thing I do when I run through, and as I said, I'm going to just run through a couple of slides just to like reiterate how important these apps and services are in the bigger like coexistence of the apps and services as well. So Stream, very important for me. In Stream, we can create channels, we can use groups as well. I always create channels to group my videos together in smaller pockets, if I can put it that way. So I rarely, if ever, put hundreds of videos on a channel. I will have a specific topic in a channel, for example, how to manage meetings and live events in Teams. I wouldn't put all the Teams videos in one channel. And then also very, very important to remember the transcripts. So you can actually search for a spoken word or a phrase in the Microsoft Stream videos. At the moment, not open for external sharing, but you can embed it in other apps and services in your Office 365. Please remember, if you don't have time to clean up your transcripts, you better go and switch your transcripts off, because I pick up a lot of nasty words in my videos that I can promise you I did not even say. So in Stream here, you can see this is a specific channel, and there you'll see that there's a couple of videos in there. Now you can share the channel by using the ellipses there, but you can also share a specific video, which means you can embed these videos in specific places. So this brings me to Teams. In Teams, a lot of time I bring a whole channel into a Microsoft Team as a tab. And that means that whenever I load more videos into that channel, it'll actually automatically show in my team. And this is where the magic is. It's not about expecting people to navigate to Stream to go watch the videos. It's about bringing the tools and services to them where they are working already. So whatever we can plug into Teams is going to make their lives better. Here's the same example of a Stream channel that I've surfaced on a SharePoint page. So a modern SharePoint, so for example, your intranet or one of your comms sites. So definitely works well. And then of course you can also share stream links via your email or in a team conversation, etc. Yammer, very quickly. There's quite a lot of development being rolled out for Yammer. They are making it pretty sexy, I can tell you that. I've seen some nice previews for it. But Yammer is available on mobile app as well. It allows people to follow specific groups. It's also got live events, video, text, polls, questions, and praises. I love Yammer because I do my more social and informal stuff through Yammer, where I keep my team's conversations more business-like. But that's absolutely up to what everyone wants to achieve. This is, for example, a page that I've built in SharePoint Online with the Yammer group using different topics. So, for example, for this remote working from home, how to engage employees, brilliant to use Yammer as that tool. And you can see I even brought in a little stream video and I brought in a little form survey as well. So those are all things. Now, that same SharePoint page with the different Yammer conversations and groups on, you can then again add as a tab on a team. Again, remember, it's not about making people navigate to the content. Bring the content to where they are. That's what brings the magic to it. This is Yammer just on its own, so that you can see this is if people take the specific Yammer group and actually add it as a tab on a team. The next thing I want to quickly just run through is Microsoft Forms. So forms we obviously use for surveys. You can do quizzes as well. You can share forms internal and external. You can also share it for people to collaborate on so they can add questions, etc. And you can also embed it in other apps. So pretty cool, very mobile friendly, and you can even share QR codes. So I've built some very cool little things with Microsoft Forms. So here you can see this is what a Microsoft form looks like. It's automatically mobile responsive as well. This is me adding a Microsoft form on a SharePoint page. And then, of course, again, I can add it on my team because I want to bring it to where my people are working. Now, when I add it to a team and even SharePoint, remember that you can have it as a form, but you can also have it to show the results, which is pretty cool. So maybe you want the team to actually see the results as they come in off a survey. And that's quite a cool thing to do. So adding them as tabs to teams, brilliant way to engage people. Sway is definitely one of those things that I think lesser known, that people don't know how powerful sways are. So I use sways quite a lot. I built all my training manuals in there. I've got my portfolios running in it. My immersion workshops are in there. If I plan a new event or something, I put all the content into Sway that I want to add. And that's text and images and video and audio. You can put maps in there, so Google or Bing Maps. Just incredible app. I can even add Microsoft Forms to it. So think of it as a PowerPoint slash website slash, I don't know, pretty cool tool that you can use. This can also be shared internal and external, so you can even add passwords onto it if it's more secure content. Please remember, though, that Sway doesn't sit in your same tenant. So Sway, Stream, and Forms doesn't sit in your same tenant. Please ensure that you are looking at compliance if you start using this, that it might be outside of your country and that it's not in line with your compliance rules and issues. So here I've added a Sway, for example, as a tab in a team, and this is an immersion workshop that we use for inductions and things. And incredible tool, people can consume the data, interact with it, engage with it. This is the same example, again, adding Sway to a page for awareness campaigns, etc., which is, again, a pretty cool tool. OneDrive, I'm sure everyone knows by now. So like I said, just scanning through there, you can share from OneDrive. It's got a mobile, it's got a desktop app, it's got a web app. Please remember the files on demand, which is pretty amazing that a lot of people don't even know is there because it can help you save space. So the free up space and the files on demand is pretty cool. It keeps 500 electronic versions in the background, which is even cooler. I think it might be rolled back to 100 soon. I've seen some announcements by Microsoft over the last year that they're rolling back versions to 100 by default. So it also has a 93 days recycle bin. And how cool is it? OCR, I mean, I can take a photo of a receipt and within seconds I can actually search for the food I had on that receipt. Well, that's back in the day when I still was able to buy takeouts, I suppose, but it'll come. So that's just on the OneDrive side. And then just quickly before we go to Teams, I just want to remind you of how incredible the Power Platform is. So that gives me the insights through Power BI, managing processes through Power Automate, and being able to capture data through Power Apps. And then, of course, they've added the virtual agents as well, which is your bots, etc. So don't throw away the Power Platform. And again, all of these plug into a lot of the other apps and services. So incredible, incredible tools. Okay, so you must just shout if you want to know anything, Peter, because I'm just running through this. I've got so many cool things that I want to share with everyone, and I just want to make sure that I don't run out of time. So, so this is on Teams, and I've decided not to do a live demo because, man, I don't use demo clients. I use my own, and sometimes it just doesn't work so well. So it also works better when we share the content afterwards, because then you have all the content in the slide deck. So I think the first thing in Teams that I just want to make a point of is to looking at the different ways we can have conversations. Now, of course, chat in the top left we know is ad hoc chat. So that could be internal or external, depending on your policies in the company. But you can have group chats there as well. But chat is outside of your Microsoft Teams. So chat allows me to just have random conversations with Teams. Is actually structured for a specific team or a group of people that I belong to and work with. Now, in the chats here, I can do a normal text message. It's just text. It's FYI. It doesn't pop up on anyone's machines. And if you're not used to Teams yet, I'd be careful to just post that and think everyone's going to see it. So if they're not quite adopted Teams yet, you might have to put a little bit more effort in. You can mark messages as important as well, which means they'll stand out like that. And then it also flags the channel. It makes the channel bold and it stands out. So the shortcut for that is just Control-Shift-I. I normally use that. You can also mention a specific person, which means it's going to pop up on that person's machine. But please remember, just because you mention the person doesn't mean everyone else can't see it. If you're in Teams and you mention a person, it's open to the whole group. So that's not the place to go talk nonsense about your boss, okay? Definitely not. You can also mention the whole team. So especially in the beginning when people are not used to Teams, I have to sometimes, a couple of times, mention the whole team, just make sure that we can get their attention back to Teams. The announcements that they brought out a while back is pretty neat because you can bring banners in. So it actually stands out better, and you have your rich text editing there as well. But please remember, don't go like announce everything now, because if everything's special, then nothing's special, okay? So keep these for like very formal announcements. And then always remember, if the conversation is right at the bottom, make sure that you actually reply on a conversation and don't just start a new conversation, because it won't thread and it won't stay put together. So make sure that you don't accidentally type in the new conversation because it's at the bottom of that post. So just take a note of that you don't accidentally mess that up. So then, of course, Teams meetings. We're actually in a live event at the moment. It's very, very cool. Up to 10,000 people for live events. And then in normal Teams meetings, we can have up to 250 people. And again, internal, external, or depending on what your company actually allows, whether it allows for you to engage on external Teams as well. But you can use Teams for external meetings as you did Skype for Business. No problems at all. So now I'm going to start, before I start going into a lot of amazing things that you do have to know. This is something cool that Alistair Pugin actually showed me the other day. I mean, well, not this one, the next slide, but we'll get to that now. So firstly, this is the Teams Adoption Flipbook, and that's the website where you can get it. But you could just search for Microsoft Adoption Resources. Incredible flipbook that people can actually click through. It's very interactive and dynamic. And you can add this as well as a tab on your Teams to help people to get to know Teams. How does it work? So such a great tool to actually use on Teams is to bring the resources and the training into the team. And then this is the one that Alistair showed me last week, which I think is pretty cool. So teamsdemo.office.com. And this is just a click-through little demo. Again, it's a URL that you can add to your team to help your users. It's such an incredible tool. And then, of course, don't forget the command bar at the top. If you go / and you start typing, you'll see that there's help. And help takes you to Teams training as well inside of your Teams app. But these are pretty cool tools that I think that you can add to your teams to help with adoption and help people get to know how the product works. Okay, here comes the heavy stuff, Peter. Oh, my word. But I'm going to have a lot to say about a lot of things. Okay, so
very quickly, the Flipbook. Okay, that's like an app download, correct?
Yeah, let me go back. So
I know you don't want to do a download.
It's not. It's actually not, Peter. It's actually a website link. So when you grab the website link, you actually just add it as a website link tab.
Oh, okay. Oh, I've seen it. And basically you upload your PDF file and it converts it into the Flipbook.
Well, the Flipbook, I'm calling it Flipbook, but that's the app that they must probably use to do it. But all I'm doing is I'm just linking to the page where they've got the Flipbook on. So I don't need the app or anything. I just link to the website.
Understood. Okay, cool.
Very, very neat. Okay, and this one as well, it's just a website that I'm linking to, so I don't need the app at all. I just engage with the physical website link that they've got on there, but it's a pretty cool tool. And the adoption resources are incredible, by the way. So the new adoption hub, just go and look at Microsoft adoption resources, is incredible. Okay, so here's a couple of things I do want to go through, because I always say that there is something like over-adoption. People don't believe me, but believe me, there is such a thing. We had over-adoption in inbox folders in your Outlook, which was chaos. And then we had over-adoption of folders and file shares, which was chaos as well. And I definitely don't want that with Teams, but I'm seeing it already again. I'm seeing people blame Teams. Oh, Trace, I can't find this and this. And then I'm like, well, don't blame Teams. I don't know. Maybe you must learn how to name your content or search better. So I'm quite pedantic about things like that. And this is a blog that I wrote a couple of weeks ago. And I mean, I got a phenomenal, like, I don't know, something stupid, like 25,000 people read the blog in one day. It was just nearly broke my WordPress site, okay? But I had a lot to say about very important things. And you're welcome to go and look at it as well. But the things that I discussed, I said there's 10 things that everyone needs to consider when it comes to Teams. You have to communicate your digital strategy, okay? If it doesn't happen, people are going to be confused about when to use what. There's a big difference between consumption and adoption. Too much of a good thing is not a good thing, okay? Naming conventions and search is very important. I want to talk about private channels. I'm going to talk about org-wide teams, permissions, owners, and members, and then just syncing the libraries down and co-authoring, and then also the creation of teams and settings, and then adding value. So I'm going to scan through some of these. I've got to just check my time, because I would just carry on for days, you know that. I'm going to quickly scan through this. So your digital strategy is very important in the company. This is just the infographic that I drew, but even if it's a picture, you have to guide users to say that, hey, we did things like this before, and this is what we suggest you do now. And you know what? Those things that you used to send by email, why don't you use OneDrive and Teams now? You have to guide your users. It's unfair to think that everyone just sorts everything out and they know everything. So do digital strategies, even if it's an infographic and you stick it up into the lift. Okay, I don't care. Doesn't have to be a 40-page boring document. Do your digital strategies. Then very, very important, big difference between adoption and consumption. Consumption is how many people have Teams licenses, okay, and are using it. Adoption is whether they're actually using it right. And there's a huge difference between that and the industry, okay. So I'm a little bit tricky when it comes to allowing everyone to create teams. I simply don't believe in it. I'm sorry. Because until people have had decent training, they shouldn't be creating teams. I'm seeing people create teams that thinks a team is just like a folder, like, oh, I need a new team for Monday's meeting. There we go, Monday meeting team. It's not supposed to be like that. So with great power comes great responsibility. Make sure that your people are trained, and then they can obviously create teams, because I want everyone to create teams, but they've got to understand what happens in the background. When you click a button and create a team, deploys a SharePoint site collection, which is massive, by the way. It's as big as our intranet. Think intranet. Does an Azure security group, okay, or / distribution list for that members and owners, okay? Does a shared mailbox, shared calendar, shared OneNote, shared planner. It's got a workspace in Power BI that it spins up, and it's also creating a group and stream. And it does it in a second, okay? So people need to understand what happens in the background when they build a team, because otherwise you're going to have over-adoption. You're going to have people creating teams that's just not necessary to be used. And when I think of over-adoption, this is what I mean by that. If you have too many channels, too many teams, people are going to be confused. So I believe in the magic rule of 7. So I just believe the brain works better with pockets of 7 information. So I try to not belong to more than 7 teams, and I try to not have more than 7 channels. That's it. Okay, it works for me. That's different though when you have temporary teams. So for teams like projects and things, different story. I'm talking about departmental teams. Okay, so again, that blog, I'll share the details again, is where I've got all this information if you want to learn more. So naming conventions, yes.
Very quick. Okay, obviously on Teams, there is statistics on this. So you can actually see, not particularly great, but you can actually see the user adoption process and what's being used and not used with the analytics, can't you?
So you can, and remember, Microsoft's also launched the productivity score, which is incredible. I delivered the session for them at a lot of the Ignites. So the productivity score is going to give you better like insights into that. But just seeing how many things are being used and how much content is in there doesn't mean that you have adoption, because someone might have 7 teams with 58 channels where it could have been 2 teams and could have worked better. So it's like people who have driver's licenses that shouldn't drive. Okay, so we can say how many people have cars and how many people have driver's licenses and how many people travel to work every day. Should they be driving a car? I don't know. So that's the big difference for me between adoption and consumption, is making sure that people are actually applying it right and using it and enjoying the experience.
Okay, so we've got a few questions coming in. Okay.
That's right.
Okay, then. So you're on the spot here. Okay, from Mr. Anonymous. Okay, can OneDrive really read what's? Can somebody see a read receipt on a message? I believe you can. If I send you a message, there's usually a little marker, isn't there, to say the person.
Are you talking about conversations in Teams?
I believe it is. Yes.
A big difference between the team then and chat, obviously. So, but a read receipt's not going to happen. Definitely not. And I think that's quite a bit of a company culture change. Then is to change that. Okay. The way we work. Yeah.
Right. Okay. No matter how hard we try, my users are simply overwhelmed. Do you have any tips on how to best control to users of what they need, are expected in this workforce? I have some appreciation for the breadth of these tools, but it's not one thing or one size fits all.
So that is a difficult question. And I think I've kind of like just absolutely used the last couple of years to put as many articles out there to help people to sort the chaos out, because I get that. You go to a website and there's hundreds of apps that you can choose from, and there's 2,000 people all have a different opinion. So I think that's nearly impossible to answer that. But I mean, I've got lots of articles to help people with how to roll things out, how to communicate better, how to engage the guys better. And everything boils down to change management. I'm so sorry to say it, and no one ever wants to hear that. But if you don't approach the roadmap correctly with Office 365, with how it's communicated to the employees, how they understand what is used for when and how, and what the rules are, then things will be chaos. When companies deploy technology like they've done for gazillions of years, where they send a pretty little email out from the CIO with a nice little banner, okay, with balloons or something that says, hey, Peter, you're on OneDrive now. Welcome to the Office 365 cloud. You know, we hope you enjoy your experience. If you don't know what you're doing, because we expect that you don't, here's a link that you can click and go watch. That did not get us adoption in the past, and I can promise you it's not going to get us adoption in the future. Training is the most important thing that can happen, and I cannot believe that companies are not investing in training. It's unbelievable. I think so. That's it's the easiest way to answer that.
I always say, with having things bite-sized, where do we want to be in 30 days, 60 days, or 100 days? And like nobody, and the big change is nobody reads anything anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's the big change. Another question is from Chris. He says, thanks, Tracy. So they love your rule of 7. For some users, numbers can be helpful. Okay, good job we don't go into double figures, I suppose. Also, I definitely agree that the first question asks, should this really be a team or how else? This is the age-old question, like in SharePoint, when people used to say, can I have a SharePoint site?
Yeah.
Why are we doing this? So you end up with massive amounts of SharePoint sprawl.
Absolutely. I kind of, like I said, I've just gone against the norm on that, Peter, because everyone did this organic thing. I mean, everyone became like, I don't know what, like Teams hipsters and hippies, okay, where everyone just had to drink the Kool-Aid. And I mean, if you can have a gazillion teams, then you have adoption. And I'm like, no, you don't. I'd rather just have 3 teams and know what they're used for and be clear about it than belong to 1,000 teams, okay? And we got that wrong. People were never trained to use technology right. It's not their fault. We've never trained people in information architecture. They've never understood how search can work better. And yes, I agree, search sucked years ago, okay? So it's better now, but they've not adopted to using search. They're still navigating to content, which is why Teams is a disaster. I mean, this is a good example that you can look at there. And this is short. I mean, we used to create folders like this. Training streams, marketing reports, sales, actual sales, 2019, Cape Town drafts. We used to navigate to content, and people are actually taking that methodology across to Teams, which is a disaster. because we've got character limits, which is slowing down search. I mean, you can look at a document and not search for it if the nested folders are too deep. So naming conventions are important. We think that it should be intuitive. Just send them a link to Teams and then they sort it. And then 3 months later, we look back and say, how's it possible that people couldn't get this? I'm like, how did you not even think of this? We've never trusted people to make better informed decisions. And now we're giving them tools that are meant for people to make better informed decisions. That's the biggest challenge that we have.
Okay. Okay. Final quick question. Actually, I'll save the rest of the questions to the end. So carry on.
Okay, cool. I'm going to just quickly browse through.
Yeah.
So just on sales as well, again, the first thing I can teach people is at least start putting the year and the month and the day in front of your documents. Because if you have documents that are all the same, then use the day and month in front of it, because that's much easier to search, because you can then see what the document is you look at. If we look at file share, like ways of thinking, we had 1 million documents called sales reports because they were all in separate document folders. So search just works better if you be more clearer about your naming conventions. And remember, you can search at the top across all your teams. Stop navigating to a team, to a channel, to a files tab like you did in Outlook. Don't do it. Search is incredible if you use it right and if you use good naming conventions. I can promise you that. So you can, even if those libraries are synced down to your PC, you can sync straight and search on your PC for those. Just a quick note on private channels, people. Of course, I have something to say about that as well. Again, a lot of people cried for private channels, and now we have it, and we're going to have a disaster, by the way. So when private channels are created, you'll see it's got a little lock next to it. A private channel creates a separate site collection, by the way, in SharePoint, if you didn't know that. It's going to create a full-blown SharePoint site collection for one document folder. So please consider, before you just create private channels, like a rock star, that it's separate site collections that it's creating, okay? Think of that private channel. Firstly, it's so easy for people to accidentally stand on the wrong channel and put it in that channel, because it doesn't look much different. It's only got a little lock there. So believe me, you are going to support people that's put stuff in the wrong places like crazy, because your brain doesn't see that as a different business rule. Your brain sees this as a different business rule. So normally I guide companies to say that, okay, so if that's a private channel, how many places are you going to have private channels that's the same audience? So on every team, you're going to have a private channel for the exco or for the management. So why don't you just have a management team then? I'm not saying it's going to work every time, though. I'm just saying think it through first before you just create private channels, because there could be a lot of bad that comes with it. So think of the audience. It could just be a separate team rather, okay, than a separate private channel in each one of them. And also think about user mistakes. It's so easy to stand on that channel or to stand on the channel above it and to share content there that everyone's not supposed to see. So please be careful of private channels. I'm all good for you using it if you understand exactly what it is and how it works. Company teams or org-wide teams. I didn't quite like the idea of it in the beginning, but I kind of warmed up to it, typical me. But I would definitely, if I create a company-wide team, and let's say we are 300 people in the company, we're a cute little starter up somewhere in Pretoria, there is no way that I'm going to allow 300 people to have two-way conversations in a company-wide team. That's like having a WhatsApp group, okay, for the whole of New York City. I mean, that would just be crazy. So I would never, ever do that. For a company-wide team, if it's a big company, I would rather change the channel settings so that only the owners can actually post. So let's say the C-levels and the management team and HR and IT, to use it more as a communication platform and manage specific channels where people can have two-way comms. I would rather add Yammer to this as a tab for two-way comms, to be quite honest, but that's my personal opinion. I would definitely check the settings on org-wide teams. There's no way you can put me in a team where everyone can talk about everything. It will drive me crazy. Syncing your libraries down as well. So if I think in times of people that do have low bandwidth at home or not always have access or something, I would definitely sync that SharePoint site behind the team down, okay? It then shows on your PC in your File Explorer. It's got the same features as OneDrive, so files on demand, all of those cool things, 500 electronic versions, 93 days in the recycle bin. But please be careful of the following thing. Users don't always realize when they've not had training. I don't blame them, okay? I've got a lot of empathy for users. We've never trained them right, okay? We've never invested in our most valuable employees, like assets. Please remember, if someone leaves a team, they're going to suddenly look at that on their desktop, on their Explorer, and go, oh, I don't want to see that anymore, and select everything and delete it. You've got to teach people how to unsync or unlink a specific team's location before they delete the folders, because they will delete those channels and it'll delete it up. in the cloud. So please make sure that people know how to unsync. Then just on co-authoring, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this now, but you can mention people in Office ProPlus documents now. It'll give them permissions to the document. It'll notify them that you want to do co-authoring. But even co-authoring in Teams is incredible. Okay, so if I go to the next slide, stuff that we do is by adding documents and Excel spreadsheets, for example, as tabs on a team. So it stays open and people can type and add their content at any time as they want, which is co-authoring. You can even see when other people are in the document. Co-authoring is incredible, peeps. Very, very, very cool tool. And it's sharpened up like crazy. So it's very, very cool. Then part of all of this crazy stuff that I shared with you as well is also a blog that I wrote. Getting started with Microsoft Teams admin. So I covered the front UI as well as the back end, the tenant and settings that you should take note of. So that might be a great help for those of you that are getting started with this. So this definitely, and then that first blog that I shared, 10 things that you should know about Teams. And you're welcome to copy and paste it. I don't care if you say that you wrote it, as long as it helps you in your company. And then I'm going to just wrap through the last page, Peter, and then we can have a discussion and some questions and stuff. So from working from home, South Africa, obviously, we don't have the bandwidth that you guys have, okay? We definitely don't. I just get such bad FOMO when I see people sharing their stats because we just don't have it, okay? So I really need to help a lot of people on that. So a good tip is to pause your OneDrive. So, but don't pause it like for all the time. Just pause it for 2 hours or something. So that helps with bandwidth. Then make sure that you're working on cable, not on Wi-Fi if possible. Stop your video and only use audio when you're in calls if it buffers a bit or something. Also in Teams, someone shared that with me last week. I didn't know that. If you share the app versus sharing the screen, it also uses less bandwidth. So, but be careful of that. It won't show anything else if you navigate to another app. But if you just want to share the specific app, it actually uses less bandwidth. And then please take note of your metered devices, that you don't tether on your phone and then suddenly have a Windows update that kills you. So you can also sync your Teams or your SharePoint down, which makes you and gives you the ability to work offline, which is an incredible tool as well. So that was me rushing through a lot of crazy stuff, Peter. I was just so scared of time. So we can definitely chill a bit now and just talk about a couple of things. Yeah.
Okay, let me just go through some of the questions. Okay. Does a private channel show those who are not members of that channel? I don't think it does. I think it only shows.
Are you asking if the channel actually shows in the team for people that aren't part of it?
Okay, well, I'm just answering. The question was, does the private channel show for those who are not members of that channel? I think it just shows people who are members.
Yeah, I believe it don't. I believe it doesn't, hey, Peter. But I actually haven't tested that. But it shouldn't. It should just not show like target audience.
I agree. Okay. Other question. General question on helping the adoption. What do you think about the use of flowchart process on why, when, on what in Teams? Like, how do you want to collaborate?
I absolutely love it.
Yeah, people like visuals.
So something that and that flowchart that you're talking about, that's something I use. There's 2 infographics that I help companies create. The one is their communication strategy and the one is their collaboration or content strategy, okay? And we do it like that. You know those problem flowcharts where you go like, has this happened? Then use that. Is it this? Then rather do that. So there's like question and answer type things work beautifully because it's clear, it's concise, and people understand. But please make sure features are released every week, okay? So I can promise you that every 2 weeks I change my mind about things. And I'm thankful for agile technology. But you have to make sure that your users understand that this technology is agile. Whatever strategy you put out today, you better tell them that this is our decision at this time. We will review it on a monthly basis or every 3 monthly basis. We will update it if technology changes, because believe me, it changes.
Mm-hmm. That is so true. Okay, we had a lot of team members that went to use apps like Trello and Google Analytics. I see that Teams offers over 300 apps and integrations. Besides who's bots, which ones do you recommend? And also, is it secure? So this is basically the app stores and the integration parts.
Yeah. So I don't know if you can answer more on that, Peter, but I'm an absolute Microsoft girl. You can see that Eat Sleep Bike 365 repeats. Okay, I never ever look at third-party products. I just don't. It's easier for me to never ever look at third-party products. So apart from the Hubot, there's nothing else that I use apart from the Office 365 stack. Of course, there's incredible apps out there, but I don't touch them, I don't talk about them, and I don't deliver my opinions about them. So if you have any feedback on that, Peter, you're welcome to, but I'm not even stepping in.
That's a longer story. So yeah, it's a longer story. If I haven't heard of an app, then it's almost like, what is this kind of thing? And also, if it's free, it's kind of like you're getting the freemium version, like Trello is free, and it's kind of like that means there's no technical support, and you're relying on blog posts. That to me is not very much enterprise ready. You know, we use other non-Microsoft tools in the company, but we're paying for those, and you know, there's a support person. So I would say, look at my opinion would be say, by all means look at third-party applications, but if it's free, you're not going to get any technical support on this. Other things regarding co-authoring Teams and Office apps. Are there any issues between co-authoring on different operating systems, or even different tenants, given the access? Guest and external.
I'm going to first talk internal, same domain. So there's definitely issues with different Office versions, different Windows, and those things. That's why Microsoft obviously is pushing so hard for Microsoft 365, so that we all on a clean slate and work on the same OS and Office versions, and that can be controlled. So I can't tell you what the issues are, but I do know that there's been some issues. I can't tell you much about the internal external use on co-authoring. So that one I'm going to have to step away from. It's not something I deal with very, very often. So I wouldn't be able to deliver a comment on that. Sorry, man.
Right. Okay. You can do the guest part on this. All right. Generally, I have to confess, generally, when I'm doing co-authoring documents, it's normally people within the tenant. I can't think of a time when I've done this. I think I know I can share a document to you, Tracy, and you're not in our tenant, and I can give it, and I can give you anyone who's got this link can edit this document. So you know it can be done. I've never really I haven't seen the side effects of doing it like that.
I think based on the question, of course it's possible, but again based on the question. If that person externally does not have Office ProPlus or is working on a very old version of Office or something, it's going to be a disaster. I mean, of course, it's going to have an impact. So different versions definitely impacts it. The co-authoring really works great if everyone's on exactly the same version and updated and everything. I mean, that's just the easiest way to look at it.
Right. Okay. Very, very cool. And okay, that was Trello. Okay. Planner. Okay, so Planner's had a little bit of integration releases, hasn't it, into Teams? Anything to share on that one?
I don't have too much to share on at the moment. I just know that they are busy with quite a lot of development. So and I'm quite happy for what they're busy working on. So I haven't tested any of it, and I can't say that I have an opinion. But the whole to-do and Planner and all of those things, they're starting to bring together, and tasks, your Outlook tasks. So I'm very, very happy for that to start showing. South Africa is always at the end of like getting feature updates. So we'll see whatever happens there soon. But I am very, very happy for that. I think something, and I always say it's rather the devil that you know. I absolutely love Planner. What you have to do is right at this moment, it doesn't have audit logs, people. So people can delete tasks and edit tasks and say, hey, Peter, you never assigned that task to me. I don't care. So please just know that if you're using Planner on that side already, just go and create a little Microsoft Power Automate that writes them into an Excel spreadsheet somewhere when tasks are created or something until that's sorted out. But I'm really hoping that this integration that's happening in these developments that they're rolling out will kind of smooth a lot of those things over, because I really, really love using Planner. So
on that note, if you ever use a third-party backup tool like ourselves, and I'm not going to name one, okay, you want to make sure it backs up your email, it backs up SharePoint and Teams. But there's also the other Office 365 components like Planner, like Sway, which you need to make sure which are being backed up as well. So I had a call about 2 weeks ago with a salesperson of our backups tool, and he said, no, this is not covered, which is kind of like fine. It's good to know. But he was saying, yeah, Office 365 is all backed up. but not totally. All right,
Yeah.
we're 1 minute over. So Tracy, this was absolutely phenomenal, and thank you very much. There was 2 questions that just come in. Let me just see this. One was being answered already about bots. Any comments about bots, about the bots in Teams?
So I'm saying bots in Teams, but something that I've messed around with that was pretty amazing. So I'm not a developer, I'm a citizen developer, okay, which means I can fix code, I can edit code, I can break code, but I can't write code from scratch, just to give you a bit of an overview on that, okay? So I shouldn't be allowed to develop things, okay, because I think I'm a bit scary. But I've used the Q&A maker, and I've in Azure, I've created bots that I've pushed to Teams, which I thought was pretty amazing, okay? But that's as far as my knowledge goes onto the things that can be developed for Teams. So I don't have much more than that to say. But what I've done from Azure and with the Q&A maker was pretty incredible. I really enjoyed doing that.
Okay, very cool. All right, I think that's all the questions in the chat. So Aaron's just posted register for our next meetup, which is obviously next month. So thank you for everyone's time. Hope you got some value from today's session, Tracy. And Tracy, thank you very much for an entertaining and educational session. Thank you very much.
I love being on it, and I hope to see you guys again soon. And everyone stay safe and stay healthy and stay happy.
Very much so. Thank you.